lot of you can. I look around, I see some folks that I went to school with that knew Kelle. I took office in 08, ran in 08, took office in 09. And this is one of the cases that I've worked on over the years, as have these other sheriffs that are standing up here, and I think practically every other law enforcement officer in this part of the country has worked on. And June of 1989 is the time that none of us will forget here in Douglas County. This case started kind of coming together over the last couple of years. The investigators that have been involved in it did a great job following up, going back over information that was obtained many years ago. That was investigators from the Christian County Sheriff's Office, the Division of Aging, investigators from the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. And as this thing started coming together, they put together a pretty good case. And at that time, they came to me and talked to me, the investigators from Christian County did, as well as Sheriff Cole. And then we met with the prosecutor from Douglas County and looked things over and tried to decide whether we thought we were going to have enough to proceed with the grand jury. And after meeting with Prosecutor Weatherman in Douglas County, it was determined that we thought we would take a shot, and that's what we did. And I'll let the prosecutor talk a little bit more about that, and I'll let Sheriff Cole talk about his involvement with his officers.
Well, once again, it's an absolute pleasure to be here, to be able to possibly bring some closure to family and friends to a case that has been going on for many years. This is a case, as Sheriff DeGase talked about, that has never been put in the file and put away. It's something that's been worked on for many years by many different investigators and Sheriff's Office, Highway Patrol investigators, many investigators along the way. It sometimes is at a point where you least expect it, that something comes together, that we are able to believe that we have the evidence that we need and witnesses and everything that we need to present the case to the prosecutor. And as you'll hear from the prosecutor here shortly, this case is a case that I believe that we're going to see adjudicated, and that you're going to see convictions and have some actual closure for the families. I want to make sure that we think of a lot of the investigators that are retired, that are sitting at home enjoying retirement, that worked a lot of hard hours on this, former sheriffs, and some of those investigators that are no longer with us. I know the family has waited a long time for this. We have waited a long time for this in law enforcement, and I just want the public to know that all the cold cases that we have, the ones that we have setting that you may not think that anything's being done, I would hope that you would entrust in us that we are working on those, and that we do everything we can do to investigate those and bring those forward, and we press forward every day to try to bring somebody to justice in these cases. And I just appreciate all the hard work of all the law enforcement. The public, there was many people that had a lot of interest in this case and did help along the way, and without the citizens' help in this case, we would not be where we're at today. So I'd like to thank all the citizens as well. Mr. Prosecutor?
Those of you who don't know, my name is Matt Weatherman. I'm the Douglas County Prosecuting Attorney. Yesterday at about 9:45 yesterday morning, the Douglas County Grand Jury returned indictments on 3 individuals. Those were Bobby Banks Sr., Leonard Banks, and Wiley Belt. Those individuals, all 3, have been charged acting alone or in concert with each other. The grand jury returned indictments on murder in the first degree, rape in the first degree, and kidnapping in the first degree. As far as the facts go, I cannot share a lot with you. That will have to wait until after the juries have heard these cases. We are going to be filing motions under the Missouri Constitution for a victim speedy trial. We're not going to mess around with this. We're going to go ahead and get this in front of a jury as fast as the judge and the courts will let us. All 3 individuals are in custody. They were taken into custody over the last 24 hours. All of them have met in front of Judge Carter's court this morning and were arraigned. Bonds have been set at $250,000 cash only each. At that point, I'm going to turn it back over. I do want to say law enforcement has done an absolutely fantastic job on this. I first got involved in this case back in October of last year. They started bringing me stuff together. We told them we had a grand jury foreman up and we were going to use it to put in front of it. The testimony they've provided is rock solid. It's as good as a 1989 case can ever be. Numerous news agencies and newspapers have reported in the past there's been some issues with forensics in this case. Quite frankly, this case is going to be an old-fashioned 1989 case. We're going to have live witnesses. They're going to testify to what they know, what they saw, and what they think, and we're going to let the jury sort it out. I agree with Sheriff Cole. I do believe we're going to be able to obtain convictions in these cases. On that, I'll turn it back over to the sheriffs. Thank you, everybody.
Do you guys have any questions? I mean, if we can answer them, we will. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Prosecutor Weatherman was saying that he can't share a lot of the facts. Is there any facts he can share? If so, what are they?
So for those of you that don't know, grand juries don't actually require the filing of a probable cause statement. Normally what we're allowed to give you is the probable cause statement. We don't have one of these in this case because it is a grand jury indictment. What I can share with you is that there are numerous witnesses that are going to testify about different pieces that they put together. There are law enforcement who will testify, both current and former law enforcement that will testify. And I do imagine we have an eyewitness that's going to testify. And beyond that, really, rules of ethics prevent me from being able to share much more than that.
Can you say what the bingo was? Was it DNA? Was it a person?
It's a person.
It's a person.
There was a person that came forward after almost 30 years of holding this inside, that came forward and finally told us the last piece we needed to slide it all together.
Was this person afraid?
I really can't speak to what they themselves felt. That's something we'll have to talk about once we get juries have heard these cases, and we'll go from there.
Sir, was the person a male or female that come forward?
I can't share that.
Okay, thank you.
Can law enforcement elaborate? Was this a person on your radar? The person who's helped in this case?
The person that came forward or the persons that were arrested?
Both.
So I think the people that were arrested have been on the radar of law enforcement. Any investigator that's looked at this, I believe they've been at the top of the list from the beginning. And as far as I know, the person that came forward, was not a person of interest in this case.
Was the person who came forward on your radar as a person who may have been able to help in the case?
That may be able to help in the case. I wouldn't be able to answer that right now.
Can you talk to us about the family's reaction to this investigation and where we're at so far?
So I met with the family last night. We met for about an hour, myself and investigators from Christian County. They're relieved. I think some of the words that they used last night were that they never thought this day would come, and they were very relieved by that. They have asked for their privacy, in an attempt to absorb what's happened, but they were very, very as happy as could be for the outcome. I think that we're able to give Kelle some justice and hopefully give the family some closure. Knowing that these guys are not out here running around and simply getting away with it. So it was a very, very good meeting and a very moving meeting for about an hour last night with the family. Yes.
Are you able to provide us with a timeline of events of what happened for a lot of people that may not be familiar with this case?
You want to go down the timeline?
So I can share a little bit because it's things that probably would have been in a probable cause statement had we had that together. For those of you that aren't familiar, essentially at some point in the late afternoon hours of June 30th of 1989, Kelle Workman disappeared from the location she was at, which is actually right here. This is where the last place she was seen alive was. From that point, at dinner time that night, her family became concerned that she had not returned and started to get out the call that there was something going on, something was not right. This was not her, it was not who her normal person was. A huge number of people came out on a physical search trying to help find her, on the idea that maybe she'd gotten hurt, maybe she'd wandered off. From that, it became pretty aware pretty quickly that this was not something that was normal, this was not something where she wandered off having gotten hurt. And about 8 days later, her body was recovered across the line in Christian County in the National Forest. From there, obviously, this became a criminal investigation and law enforcement launched into it. And really from then, it's just been a sequence of gathering every single fact everyone could put together as best they could, making runs at suspects, runs at people we thought were suspects, culminating to, like I said, the individual that came forward here in the last couple months that allowed us to get the indictments we've gotten.
You mentioned a national force. Is there any federal involvement at this point?
No. Well, not that I'm aware of. They tend to not tell us that. Anything else I can answer?
So there was some DNA some DNA involved earlier in the case, Sheriff DeGase. Can you address this? Some DNA that was available and then it was destroyed or somehow. Can you talk about that, about how maybe frustrating this case is when you talk about evidence?
So there were some items that were seized early on in the investigation. I'm not exactly 100% what transpired or took place with that. I do know some things were submitted to the crime lab that was untestable. So I mean, I do think that there were maybe some issues early on in this investigation that may have slowed things down a little bit. But other than that, I don't have any of the specifics on that.
Can I just clarify a question from previous about the person who came forward with information?
Okay.
Was that person on your radar? Have you spoken to that person in the past? Was that person somebody in this circle?
So that person was spoken to in the past, but I don't believe that person was spoken to in the past as a suspect. If that answers your question, they were not on our radar as a suspect. That's correct.
But you have spoken with them in the past.
Correct.
You or previous administration?
Previous administration.
Thank you.
So, did this person come back to you guys and maybe after all these years maybe wanted to get it off their chest and open up about it? Kind of talks about that night whenever things broke.
So, without getting too deep in the investigation, my investigators were called about some information that might be relevant to the case and somebody that might have information about the case. We approached that person, interviewed them and talked to them, and that's when we were able to come up with the new information that we've been able to provide to the prosecutor to move forward with the charges.
Is it a case of just that little bitty piece?
So sometimes it's the smallest of pieces that you need to fit the puzzle together to complete it, and I think this is exactly what we needed and have needed for a long time. But yes, that's why we never give up. We continue and continue and continue to make sure that if that little piece is out there, that we eventually find it and put it together.
And did this person realize how important that little piece was going to be?
I believe that, I can't answer that for them, but I believe that they were quite aware of the information that they knew and had and what it could do for the case.
Did these three people in custody through interviews with law enforcement, did they admit to anything? Did they have any remorse? Was there anything in those conversations that maybe have helped the investigation of the case?
Well, the three people that you're talking about, if you're talking about the people that have been arrested and are in custody, have been interviewed multiple times over many years. At this point, I think that is more relevant to the trial and moving forward, and we'll just leave it at that for now.
Vernon in the initial. So Vernon had just started with the sheriff's office when this happened. I think he just started the year before. So I'm not for sure how much involved he was in the initial investigation. Sheriff Alden Turner is here today. He was involved in the initial investigation, so he is here with us today as well. So once again, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out, and I thank the media, you guys for coming out and letting us be able to get this information out to our community. It's definitely been something that's been over Douglas County for 35 years, and as I said earlier, we're fortunate. We're very happy that we were able to hopefully bring some closure to the family and get Kelle some justice.